Hello my felting friends, welcome to this week's video. This is the next part of the series I'm doing on how to needle felt a basic picture, and I'm just going to give you some extra information and take a little longer to explain things for you. So last time we created the sky and had a couple of options for that, and this week we're going to start to do distance and things, so you can start to see how you can get the look of distance in your picture rather than have it flat. So what we're going to concentrate on this week is the distant hills or mountains. I'll show you both, whatever you'd like to put in there. So we're going to kind of do down to like here kind of thing, and then the next one we will make sure we do the beginning and any other bits and pieces and things like that we want to put in it. So I'm going to show you to start with just some colours that I would use when I do my distance, if I'm going to do hills or mountains, stuff like that. So you don't have to have exactly the colour, but I wanted to show you the idea of what I'm going for. So if you look at these, you don't have to have this green. It's actually a bit mottled, this green. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's just pale. The whole point is the further away something is, the more pale it becomes and the less detailed it becomes. So I would take this colour, this pale green here, and if necessary I would even add some white to it, because I don't want to add anything like yellow because I want it to start to disappear. So if my sky, let me just move this for a second, I'll come back to it. If my sky is this blue, when I put this on, it's still quite strong. Can you see that? It's still quite a strong colour. I mean, it's more distant than if I put that and then I put, let's just grab a green, and then I put that. This would obviously be closer. So that would still be distance, but if I'm doing something that's very distant, I would want this almost to blend into this sky. So I would take something like some of the sky colour, some of the blue maybe, or I would put a bit of this and I would go in for, again, this is like a very light grey. It's a little bit mottled, but it's a light grey. And I would mix some of this with some of this. I'll show you the difference in a moment, because I want it to disappear. That's the whole point. I don't want your eye drawn to it particularly, I just want it there. So give me a second, I'll just mix it up. I may even take that a little bit lighter so I can show, I want a proper one to show you the actual distance. So this would be if I'm doing distance hills, not mountains. So see how light that is down. Let me show you that against this. Let me see if I can put it down. So can you see already that is paler? So I would start off with something, let me hold it up and hopefully you can see the colour better. I would start off with something that pale. It's basically the cloud colour in the sky really, and a little bit of green, and you could put that down in the very distance and it almost disappears. Can you see that? That's what I'm going for. I don't want any detail and I don't want anything to jump out at me. I just want distance. So if I were just doing distance hills, that's how I would start with that. I'm going to show you, kind of just blobby it, but I would start with, say, something like that in the distance, then I would come closer with that one, sorry, then I would come closer with that one. There's not a lot of difference, but there's just enough, there's just a little bit more colour in there. Then as I come closer, because you can still mix these with whites and yellows and things like that, and as I come closer you would start to go into the other greens like this, and then maybe I want something a little bit vibrant, so I might have this and I would mix, let me have a look, something a little more vibrant in it like this, because again as it gets closer it gets more colourful, brighter, more obvious. And you see how we're starting to see how that changes in colour. And then I could come, if I wanted to get up really close, I wouldn't use a flat colour like this, I would mix more into it because that's just boring. But then, so can you see, so in my hill colours I would go right from something you almost can't see gradually through to the colours, and as it comes forward it's getting more colour, it's getting more vibrant. So that to me is how I would do my distant hills. But as I say, with this one, don't use it, it's got little flecks of colour, it's my last bit of this one. Don't use it flat like that, you would want to mix something into it, but I'll show you all that, not to worry. So I'm hoping that gives you some idea of the distance effect when it comes to hills. Okay, so we'll save those and I'll put those to one side because we'll probably come back to those. Now if I wanted to do distant mountains, it would be the same thing really. So I'm sorry, I'm just moving these. So I have a selection of colours that I would use for distance mountains. My first one is this one, and this is pewter. Everybody knows I love pewter, but pewter is a great colour because I don't know whether I can explain it to you any better than that, but it's not a colour. To me, it's not even really a colour. It can be anything, and this is why I like it, because so as you can see when you put it there, it's not a I'm just going to needle flood it just briefly and hold it in place. It's not anything. It doesn't draw your eye to it particularly, and you could still, if you wanted to, I could still take some of this grey that I had earlier, because again the furthest away it goes it disappears into the sky almost. It just becomes a non-thing. So I'm just mixing some of that grey or the cloud colour. Oh, wrong way, bear with me. So I'm going to mix it. I'm going to do exactly the same thing and show you the mountain effects. So this is the grey with the pewter. I'm going to plonk it down there. So there we go. So that's like gone. That's distance now. I then could come straight into my pewter colour if I wanted to, and add that next, because that's a little bit closer. Okay, now don't forget you can mix these colours all together, so you don't have to have it as a flat colour. Then you could come into a grey, but I wouldn't use necessarily flat grey. Can you see how it's coming closer? And then I would take things like that grey and I would mix. This is my other favourite colour at the moment. I've got this petrol. Now it looks quite dark, and it is, but I would use this, and I would mix other colours into it. So I would take this kind of colour. You don't have to use exact colours, but you know, something similar, and I would mix it with some of my, so I've got my pewter and my petrol here, or it's just a nondescript brown and a bit of bluey lavendery colour really. Mix them together, and that would give you your shadow colours and things on your mountains as you come closer. Can you? I'm hoping you can see. So I've got a distant mountain, a closer mountain, closer still, and up close. So I'm hoping that helps you a little bit. You'll see it better when I do it. I just wanted to demonstrate the way it goes from distance to close up. Also with that mountain, even though I'm going to grab the pale one here, I could still take some more of my sky colour and literally just blend it into the sky, so you don't even see the edges, because quite often when it's very, very distant, you're not really even seeing the edges or anything. You don't want hard edges on stuff. That's what gives it just blends and hazes away. So that's those. So you can choose whether you want to do mountains or hills or even both. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to use those colours, I'm going to show you a little bit of distant mountain, and then I'm going to go in, so we use both. So I'm going to do a little bit of distant mountain, and then we'll come into the distant hills, so you get a real idea of how it works. So don't forget, these are the colours I'm going to use, those and the greens. So, but to start with, we're going to use these colours here. So as long as you've got something like it, you just want pale and nondescript, okay? So I'm going to start with, this is that little bit I mixed with the pewter and the grey, and I'm going to start with that, and we're going to start, might as well start, as we have a gap, might as well start here. So obviously I'm making, as I lay it, I'm laying it in the direction I want the mountain to go. So when you pull it apart, even if it's carded wool, you can pull it apart and you can lay it however you want it. So what I'm trying to do is give the direction or the shape of the mountain. Because even with that, if I lay it across, you get a cross look. So I want to make sure it goes up and down. So I'm just going to lay it down like this. There we go. Now as I've got to the sky here, I'm going to pull it really thinly. So if you can see, I've got it's very, very fine now, and I'm just going to add that fineness there. A little bit more, very thin. So at this point, your mountain here has gone off out of the picture almost. It's almost vanished there. Now, the other thing to remember is that the further away they are, the lower they're going to be. So I have to decide, do I want my mountain that tall here, or do I want to keep it low? Because this is going to be my hillside. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a touch more, and I'm just going to use, now this is my pewter carded wool. See the colour? Just going to add a little bit because it's just, I want it just to look in a little closer here. So I'm going to add that. I think I'll make it a little bit taller because it wants to be taller than the other one. So we'll come up here a little bit. So this is our mountain here. Now, I might want to have some shadow on this mountain because the sunlight wouldn't go evenly over it. So I'm going to take a bit of that blue that we mixed and a bit of that together. So we have these two colours, which is what we mixed on this one. And I'm going to be very careful with this. I don't want too much because otherwise it will look odd. But I'm going to look at my mountain and think, well, I'm just going to imagine where the sun's coming from at the moment. And I'm going to have a little bit of shadow here. Not too much, just a touch. Where the light's not getting to it, not really. And we might have a little bit as it comes down into the valley as well. But I'm going with the blue because the blue keeps it more distant. And blue is a cold colour, so that is, you know, a shadow colour really. So I'm moving it around a little bit so I have a little bit of shadow here and there. Let me just use my other thing for a minute. So can you see now we have a little bit of shadow there? I still don't want much when it comes out to these long distant ones here. In fact, I'm going to move that down a bit because I think that's too high. So I'm going to give it a kind of a mountainy shape and just fade it out into the other hill there. So I'm going to add a little bit more here. Because that does look very odd, just ending like that. So I may put something, I may go back to my distance colour, which if you remember is my pewter, which is this one, and I've mixed it with that one. I'm going to take a little bit of both of those. I'll show you something else with those in a minute. There's a little bit of those, and I'm going to put me another distant mountain, whoops, just here. I'm going to have it lower than this one because this one's closer. So I want a distant hill there as well. Now the other thing about mountains and things in the very distance is quite often at the bottom here you have atmosphere. It's like where the air might be a little moist or there's dust particles and stuff in the atmosphere. So we wouldn't necessarily have it going the same colour all the way down to the bottom. You might lose some of that. So I'm going to take some of my grey colour, this one, and I'm going to very thinly, I'm putting it really thinly, can you see? And I'm just going to lay it. It doesn't matter if it goes over this bit because I've still got the grass to do. I'm just going to lay it here, and I'm going to get it to look just a little bit hazy at the base of these mountains. Keep pulling it thin. I'll use my multi-tool because it's a bit quicker for you. So I'm losing some of this at the base of these mountains. Now you can go in with your grey, granity grey here, if I want to, and I want to make it more, you know, lose some of this pale, some of this pale colour here. I can go in with a bit of my granite. I'm just going to roll it up a bit. Still make sure it comes down in the direction you want your mountains to come, and I'm just going to start to add a touch of that just to give a little bit of texture. I don't want a lot. I'm not looking for detail as such. I'm just looking to break up some of that pewter colour I have here. So I don't want too much. I'm just going to lay it down and pull it. And I'm going to lay a bit down over this here, and just wherever it lands. This is a lot of my art, is wherever it lands it'll do. And so I'm just doing it so it doesn't matter too much where it goes. I just want to break that up just a touch. Now what you could also do, if you wanted to, was take a little bit of white or cream, just grabbing it a little bit. So what you could also do is you could take a little bit of white, same cloud cover as your clouds, same colour as your clouds, and put it on the top of your mountain. So you have a little bit of snow maybe up there. I'm just rolling it up in my fingers and just putting a little bit down. Again, you don't need to have, because snow on a mountain it goes all over the place, so you can just pop it down and move it around a little bit. There you go. So good job it's a sunny day and we can see the top of the mountains. So this is all I'm doing is, can you see I'm just adding a little bit of white. I'm not going to add it to all of them because again I don't want too much detail back here. And what you can do if you're very gentle, I mean I'm just stroking this, I'm just separating some of those strands with my needle and just pulling them out a little bit up there. There we go. So can you see how they've just vanished into the distance? And we can always come back later and add to those if we want to. So that's your distant mountainy colours. The biggest thing is to just note that you want to keep it pale. That's not where your eye is being drawn to, so it's a filler in the background. So nothing too much, I say. And if you wanted big mountains here, then you need to make the colours stronger, and you would have to start really thinking about the shapes, and then if you brought them in close. But we're not going to do that one on this because I'm trying to keep it simple for you to learn with. So okay, so that's your distance mountains. If you're on Patreon, go check, because you've got a PDF which shows you colours and things like that as well. So go and check that out. It should be there now, and that will give you more information and some colour charts and things as well. So what I want to come to now is I'm going to come to the distant hills. So if you recall, because I've already put a very distant mountain in, I don't need a very, very distant hill. They are going to be closer. So I'm going to go with this colour. So this is just a pale green, any pale green you've got. If you haven't got, say you've just got, I don't know, let's pick something really vibrant. Say you've got this green. You can take this green, or one like it, and just keep adding white. That's what I would do. I would just keep adding white. Not yellow, I would just take white and pale it up quite a lot until you get something that's more pale like this. And then what I would do next is decide where you want your hills. I'm just going to fill in the whole of this bit with it, and then we'll come back and we can alter things in a minute. So I'm just going to take this green, this is a carded wool again, and I'm just going to lay in. If I decide I want it paler, I can go back and make it paler. So I'm just going to fill all my hill area in this colour. And because it's carded wool, it doesn't matter. You can just pop it down and felt it. Whereas if I was using roving, where you pull in strips, I would be thinking more about the direction I was laying it. So let's just block in this whole area, and then we can go back and decide how we want our hills and things to look in a minute. I've dipped it here obviously because you've got the mountains, so you want to be able to see those. If you've put them in, if you may not have wanted to put them in. But this is what this picture's all about. I'm giving you ideas and then you can have a play with it. I've made sure that I've made sure that in the description box for this picture as well, you do have the drawing. So you can go and download that for free if you want it. If you're on Patreon, the drawing's already in the PDF if you want it. I think we can consider that the distance one's done. All we're doing at this time in these videos at the moment is blocking in the things. We can go back later on and add more detail and bring it more to life once we get that far. But at the moment I just want you to be able to start to create your picture. So we have our basic in. If you watch my tools video at the beginning of this series, you'll know I'm using this multi-tool. It's just got extra needles, it just saves me time. If you're doing this with a single needle, you'll need to take a bit longer and make sure you felt it down properly. So that's the distant hills. We could make those more distance if we want, but I say we'll come back and we'll sort these out later on as we go. So now I want to add something with a bit more colour, so I'm going to use another green, but I don't want to see, it's quite a yellow green, so I don't want quite so yellow at this moment. I still want it with some green, so I'm going to take this yellow and I'm going to mix it with a green. Again, I know this is a mottled green. You can make this mottled green if you want to, or you can just use a green that's basically this colour. This actually has like green and black in it. But you don't need all the mottled bits at the moment because we can come back and sort all that later. You just want a middle tone green, and I'm trying to see if I can find one that's... Bear with me a second. Alright, I'll tell you what, I won't use that one because you may not have that, but that's quite a good green. We'll use this one. This is called Willow, and it's from World of Wool. So I'm just going to take this green, and I don't want it this strong yet, it's just a little bit strong still. So I'm going to take some of this green and I'm going to mix it with a touch of the yellowy green, the lighter green, and I may even mix it with a little bit of white yet, I don't know. We'll see how the colour comes out. I'll have a look at that now. That's a nice colour. So that's what I've ended up with. I've got a bit of the green, a little bit of the yellowy green in it as well. So I'm just having a look at my hills and I'm thinking, where would I like to define the next hill? So I think I'm actually going to, although I've done this, I think I'm going to have that one as a distant hill, and I'm going to bring this hill here that starts here a bit closer. So again, and now if you notice I've mixed this, but it doesn't matter to me that it's not perfectly mixed, and you might get some lighter green and you might get some of the darker green, because that's what makes it more interesting. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to consider this hill I've put in here as a bit closer. So I'm going to put my next green on here, and again I'm pulling it. I want it to run down that way, so as I'm pulling it, even though it's carded, it comes part in that direction, and I'm using the direction to help me, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it coming down the hill and then kind of leveling out a bit, so it's coming down there, and I'm going to take it that way now because I want it to come down the hill and then flatten out a bit as we get to this road here. And as you can see, it's a little bit patchy, and that's completely fine. So I'm going to level it out here a bit, where we're coming down to the road. And it won't matter too much if you go over somebody's road, or you can go over the whole road and not have a road, or path really, isn't it? If you want to. I do that because I don't want gaps. So if I stopped my green, say here at this line, and then I started my path, I would have a very tiny gap, and I don't want that, which is why you'll see me in my pictures. I always go over the lines a bit. So this distance hill here, I'm going to add a little bit of this stronger green now here as well, because it's gone from being very distant up to closer. So I'm just breaking it up. And I'm going to, as I say, we can alter this later. We can have a look at it nearer the end of the picture and decide the bits that we want to change. And I'm just laying this darker bit along here. But now I'm laying it straight across because I'm not trying to get the direction particularly. And I have a little gap here. I'm not keen on this little space here, so I'm going to just add a little bit more into that space. I want to not have it coming down at like an angle. I didn't want that. So I'm just going to soften that a little bit. And because I have a hill here as well, this is going to be another hill, bear with me, just sit that bit down. I want to put a little bit here as well. And again, I'm going over the gate. So the gate's an option as well. I don't know whether I said in the last video, you don't have to have a gate here. If there's something else you want, I mean, the gate's a little random, but I put it in because it was a thing to focus you on. But you do not have to use the gate. You could put anything you like. You can even just have a rock or a flower. It doesn't matter. Whatever you'd like there, that's your little place to put whatever you want, really. I mean, who knows? I might not have a gate when I'm finished. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I change my mind all the time. So anyway, so I've decided that this hill here as well, so I'm going to add some more green, and I don't mind that it blends into this at all. Okay, so I'm going to put this on here as well, because we're going to do things like add trees and stuff like that as well. So I'm just following my little hill here. Oh, I just had to stop there because we're in the middle of a thunderstorm. I just decided. So if you hear any thunder or see any funny flashes of lightning, my apologies. I will try and edit out any thunder in case it makes you nervous. Right, so anyway, so I've taken that green that we've put there, and instead of having the yellow, I've taken this, which is basically the same green. It's just got a little bit of black. So I'm just going to blend these together because I'm still coming forward. And I say, when we come to the final episode of this little series, we'll go back in and we'll titivate it all up and make it more than we is. At the moment, what we're doing is we're blocking the colours in and learning a little bit about how to create the depths and things that we want. So I've mixed that, not brilliantly, because anybody will tell you I never mix my colours really, really well when it comes to greens. I like the mottled look. So now I'm going to fill in some more of this, probably down to about here. I may even get the whole front bit done, and we'll come back and sort it out. So we'll see how it goes. A couple of things I want to note to you. At the moment, we have this here, which goes up there, and this here that goes across there. Now, you wouldn't want that in your picture, not to do that, not to mirror it like that. So what we will do later on is we will go back and we will break all this up a bit so that it's not just two scoops. We're not going to end up with lots of lines of scoops. But just for the minute, just where we're marking in our areas, it's going to look like that. So now I'm taking a darker colour because we're coming even closer, and I'm going to fill in, in fact what I will do, I'll fill in all this, and then we'll put the basic path in today. So we'll get that bit done. So bear with me while I fill all this in with this colour here. Right, so when you've covered all that in, just make sure you felt it down really well. Take your time and felt it in because you don't want it coming up and being really, really fluffy. So then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pick a basic brown colour and just mark in where I want my path. So it doesn't matter what colour brown too much that you choose, because we're just blocking in the path. But I would suggest that you pick a medium brown rather than a very dark brown, because what I want to be able to do is put a medium colour down, and then that means I can put darker colours onto it if I want to, or I can put lighter colours. So you just want to make sure that you have a colour that you can put lights and darks on, rather than just a dark or a light, because we want to save our lights and darks and use them in a minute. So wherever you want your path, pop it in now, and you can have it windy or anything, it doesn't matter. You'll notice I've gone over the gate because I can put the gate back in later if I want to. I have the sketch, or if I decide later on to put something different in, I can do that as well. So as I say, originally the gate was there to give you an idea of put something there. That's where you want it. So I'm just now going to use this brown, and I'm just going to fill in. What you want to do is make sure you start off and this brown disappears. So we're starting off with nothing there, so it's going around the corner so you wouldn't see it too much. And then I'm going to bring this around. Again, I'm not worried about going over the grass, anything like that. I just want to mark in where I'm going to have my path. So, and obviously because it's further away, the further away from it gets, the narrower your path is going to get. And as it gets closer to you, it's going to get wider. So I'm just going to block this all in. If you wanted to make this a river instead, I'm not actually covering rivers in this little course, but you could put some blue in that in if you'd rather have a river. But I think if you're a beginner, then I would just stick with the path, because it's nice and straightforward. You can end up with a nice picture where doing water is a little bit more involved, which I may cover later on in another little series I do. If I do another one, I'll see how this one goes if people are interested in it. But I just wanted to give a little series for beginners so they've got some idea what to do. So as you can see, I'm not too worried about it. It's not actually perfect. I'm just, popping it down. Your most important thing is just to narrow it in the distance and bring it a little bit wider as it comes to you. And then once you've marked in when you're happy with your part. Now, the other thing, if you remember in the previous episode I did about not having things smack in the middle of your picture and things like that. So I'm making sure that this path, it starts somewhere and comes off the side. If I'd had it coming straight down here, it would have taken you into the picture straight on, and it's not as interesting as it is when you have meandering paths like this, or little rivers, or anything it could have been. So we've blocked in then some distance, we've come forward, and as we've come forward we've got darker. We've put in our basic path, and what I'm going to do next time then is we're going to start to add interest to the picture. We've got our basics in place now, and that's fantastic, but now we want to start to maneuver things about, add trees in, things like that, to make it a little bit more interesting. What I might show you just for distance, we'll put in a few distant trees, and I'll show you just before we go how I can change this rather than all just scooping like that, because we don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my darker green when I can find it, just a small amount of darker green, and I'm going to decide where I think my path would go. So it's gone here, but maybe it's gone round the bend here. It might have gone round the bend, and then it might come up over this hill here. So I think, in actual fact, before I put my darker green in, I'm going to add a little bit more path. And now this is going to be very narrow now. Now this is my way of like taking it in and out the picture. So we're going to have a little bit of path just here, because we've gone round the bend and now we're coming up over this little hill. So I'm just going to add a touch of a path there. It would only be very narrow, and I've curved it so that it looks like it's coming up over the hill. So now we've got a reason to follow the path. There we go. And what we can do into this distance here, if we wanted to, was we can take the path on even further. So I'm going to make a very, very fine line. This is just going to be an impression of a path now. So now we have a nice sweeping thing that's taking us all the way into the picture, and it's taking us to the mountains in the back if we want to go there. So now I'm going to just show you the, and it splits this up obviously as well. But if you want a few distant little trees right in the very distance, you're going to pick a slightly darker colour, not too much, sort of somewhere around this range. So I'm going to pick, let me just show you the actual colour I'm using. I've picked this one. And because it's distant trees, you're not going to see shapes particularly. You're not going to see, certainly you won't see branches and leaves, things like that. But I'm just going to have maybe a few little distant trees, maybe coming down here. So I've just rolled it in my fingers. And I'm just going to blob a few bits. Because don't forget, they would be really small. If you look at the size of that path, this is almost going to look like a mini hedge in the distance. So I'm just taking some tiny, tiny little bits. And don't forget, you want different heights as well. Trees aren't all the same height. So we're going to have some tiny little bits. We'll go and work on this more later. I just didn't want to leave you with not having an option of something to have a go at in the meantime. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this hill here. It's going to come down in front of these trees. So there might be a little bit more. Well, I think I'll have a little tree just there as well. But again, if you look at it, they're not too strong in colour, so they still stay in the distance. And so you don't need to worry about trunks, stuff like that. We're just going to pop these in. We may go back later and add a little bit of shading and things like that to them perhaps. So do I want one more before we go? I think what I'll do, just so that we can end this path in a place where it was hiding, it goes on beyond, I'm going to add a little cop of trees there. There we go. And that's literally, so if you want to do a few more, you can do. I'm just going to, but try and vary the heights, things like that. But that's just the start of it. So I'm just make a start on the trees. We've got the path, and all this we're going to work on. I say at the last video, we will work on bringing it to life with shadows and all that kind of thing. We're just really, like I said before, laying in the basic foundations. So today you've learned how to do some mountains and keep them in the very distance. And you've learned how to bring your colours forward by making them darker or brighter as they come forward. And we've marked in our basic way to get into the picture and how to get us through the picture and out the other side. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If any comments, just leave them in the comments box below and I'll get back to you. And patrons, don't forget you've got the chart and all that to download if you want to. And I will see you on the next video where we will start to bring things in the background to life a bit. So happy felting, and I will see you next time on the next video. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye for now.